All right, so I'm just waiting for everyone to come in and join the session right now. All right, I know I got at least one person on here. All right, I'm in here and I see two other viewers, but I don't see. Let me see. You guys showed up temporarily, but I don't see you right now. If you can see me and you can hear me, just go ahead and type something into the question box down below. Can you do that for me? Just type a question in the question box. All right, it looks like I've got two viewers, but I don't see anyone, so I don't know if you guys are on here or not. Can you guys hear me when I talk? I'm learning very quickly why any other webinar that I've done in the past has always had two people hosting the event so that when the time comes, they can go ahead and get started and talk to each other, and it doesn't feel awkward because you're only talking to the other person as opposed to talking to yourself. So you don't feel like an absolute idiot like I do right now. All right, and I know Andrew's on here, so I'm gonna send everyone else the invite again. Um, at least it looks like Andrew's on here. I don't know if he's actually watching or not, but if you can see or you can hear me, I'm gonna start talking. If you can't see or hear me, uh, I just sent you another invitation. I think it goes to your email. I don't know where else it would go. Um, so if it's in your email, great, fantastic. If it's not in your email, um, I don't know what to tell you. Looks like you guys are all trying to do something at least. All right. All right, guys, you got to leave the old hangout. I don't know. I'm in the new call right now, so you got to leave the old one. This one is active. This is the one that I'm on. So make sure that you're here. I don't know what else to tell you. If you guys are all nearby each other, help each other out if you can. I'll try and send the invites again to you guys. Uh, and hopefully this invites you guys back into this hangout, the one that I'm actually on, as opposed to the one that we were on before. Because the one that we were on before, even though we were all there, um, oh, Kaz. All right, well, here's what I'll do. I'm going to copy this one to this. All right. And just so you guys know, this is not as much of a Google problem as it was a me problem, and uh, the idea that um, that one of us jumped on and tried to invite me to their link or to their event, and so when I tried to jump on their event or just check in with them to tell them switch to this event, then it didn't work right. So either way, we're recording now. I'm broadcasting live. We got the Q&A up. Um, so I see. Uh, nope, it looks like there's a problem. Campbell, you might have left because you were here and I could see your questions. Now I can't see. What can't? Now I can't see Campbell. Are you still here? Because I'm showing that I've only got one viewer. I think that one viewer is me. If you guys are on, then great, fantastic. If not, looks like I'm just gonna have to go and start talking, and we'll record it, and um, and you can watch the video later. Sorry, I know that's inconvenient, but it's worth a shot. Okay. So just a couple things to do a quick review, and I know it's gonna sound, at least today, it's gonna sound like I'm being a little bit repetitive, but it's because all of these things are kind of foundational that if you don't understand these concepts or what we'll sometimes call axioms, If you don't understand these things, then everything else that we talk about in this class, you're going to go, huh, that doesn't make sense. Or you're going to hear something, and you're going to hear something that's false. Oh, yes, that makes sense to me. When in reality, you had the tools to tell you to be able to do the analysis and identify that whatever that person was saying was false. But because it sounded good and it felt good, and you didn't do the analysis, then you weren't able uh, to understand the truth or to see the axiom that underlies the concept that we're going to talk about later in this semester. Okay. So just a quick review with you guys. The first thing is that economics is about human action and human exchange, and based on the idea that humans act, and humans act with purpose based off their own desires. They act to meet our ends. And it doesn't mean that we're greedy, and it doesn't mean that we're selfish. It just means those are the things that drive us to act. Could we be slugs and just sit around and not do anything ever? Of course, we could. But that doesn't do us any good, right? We're here to act. That's what kind of how we're designed. All right? Ooh, let's see. I see Kaz. Okay, Kaz, can you hear me right now? Because I see you, or at least I see your question, but I don't see anyone showing up down here. And I know I'm doing it a little bit different than what I've done in the past, where I've got the Q&A and a live feed broadcast. So, Kaz, I see you, and I clicked on it, and it says you're here. Great, fantastic. All right, and Campbell, let me try and select your question again. It says you're here, and I can't see anything. So you might have popped out, you might have been in, I don't know. I think I've got myself, Andrew, and Kaz on here. Either way, we'll be able to post this video afterwards, and you guys can see it. Okay, so back to this idea that humans act, and they act based on their values and their preferences. And I don't get to determine what your preferences are, and you don't get to determine what my preferences are. We might try to influence other people's preferences, but we can't tell them what they are. And we can't take everyone's preferences and lump them all together. Because what happens when we take people's preferences and we lump them all together is that it distorts the preferences of each individual, and we say, oh, this is what the group decided, when most of the people in the group didn't actually decide that. I'll give you a quick example of something I did in my class just this week. I'm sorry, last week. Is I've got 20 to 25 students in each of my entrepreneurship classes where we spend a lot of time looking at economics. And okay, cool. Thanks, Kaz. And when I did this activity where I asked people what their favorite flavor of ice cream is. And I went around the room and I asked every single student what their favorite flavor of ice cream is. And of course, 20 to 25 different students, I got probably 15 to 20 different answers, and they all had their own preferred flavor of ice cream, okay? And as we went through and did this, I said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. Whatever the number one flavor of ice cream is, the top preferred flavor of ice cream is, we're going to let everyone get that flavor of ice cream. Excuse me. So after we went around the room, I identified that the two most popular flavors of ice cream in one of my classes was chocolate and cookies and cream. And in the other one, it was chocolate and mint chocolate chip. Well, I didn't like those preferences. So I had them switch. I chose chocolate or vanilla, and they had to vote on chocolate or vanilla. And the idea here was that we were trying to aggregate or combine into one pile everyone's preferences. And in the end, when we voted, when everyone was given two different options, to rate their preferences, and the only two options they were given was chocolate or vanilla, then they voted and they chose chocolate. Now, when we looked at the room as a whole, we said that the class preferred chocolate. But when I asked individually, the number of students that actually preferred chocolate was only 3 or 4. It was a really small number. And so the question was, why on earth would we as a whole have to get chocolate? Why would everyone in the class have to get chocolate when it was really only 3 or 4 students that preferred the chocolate to begin with? So it's really hard to take individual preferences and aggregate them or combine them together into one pile. It doesn't work very well. So we can't take people's values and combine them together. So the question is, how do we measure people's values? How do we determine what people value, and how do we measure that? Isn't that kind of the point of what economics is all about, is the idea that we're going to measure what people prefer as a society, as a group, as a whole. And so we talk about this idea of utility, that people's values are based on the utility of a resource, meaning how much I like it, how much it improves my quality of life. Sorry, I'm writing something down so I don't forget it. And so for me, I don't really like chocolate ice cream. I prefer vanilla. Um, I prefer other flavors more than I prefer both of those. But in fact, uh-oh, okay. I thought I was frozen for a minute there. I don't even prefer ice cream all that much. I might actually prefer something else. Sorry, I was getting a notification of something down here from another window, so let me just check something out real quickly, guys. Sorry about this. Okay, all right, sorry, I'm back. Okay, so I might actually prefer something else entirely, because my values, or how much I value something, is really, really hard to measure as an absolute number. I can't really say, well, I like chocolate 7 and I like ice cream 3. Okay. It's something that we do sometimes to make it easier because our brains work mathematically. Excuse me, sorry guys. And it makes it easier to do the analysis because we have the numbers. Sorry guys, that's really horrible. But when we're looking at the analysis, if we think that there's a number associated with your preferences, then it can be really deceiving, and it can lead us to make some faulty economic values or faulty economic analyses based on this idea that, well, you value chocolate at a 3 and you value vanilla at a 7 or whatever I'd previously said. It's irrelevant because the whole idea of giving something an absolute value is irrelevant. Okay, this is kind of like having facts versus opinions, right? So there are facts. I can go outside and I can look up and I can say the sky is blue. Now, someone else who might be colorblind might not necessarily see the sky blue, but their opinion doesn't change the actual color of the sky. They can say, to me, the sky does not appear to be blue, where, but it doesn't change the nature of the sky. Where I can go out and I can say, I like the flavor of vanilla ice cream. And if someone else says, I don't like vanilla, that's gross, it doesn't change the nature of the vanilla ice cream. Okay? but it changes their valuation of the vanilla ice cream. Well, okay, great. What does that have to do with any of this? Because it gives us some insight into how people value things and a reminder that values are nothing more than a ranking system, and that our rankings of different options, different alternatives, different choices that we have before us, they change over time. And it's not just that they change once and then they're done, but they change over time and they're different from person to person. So it's not just subjective uh, to me versus to you, but what I value in the morning might be different from what I value in the afternoon. Essentially, what I'm trying to get across to you guys is that there's no absolute way of putting a certain number. And economists have done this in the past. Okay? It's really kind of ridiculous, but economists have tried to do things where we created a term, uh, and the term was uh, utils. And we used the term utils to try to measure or try to at least explain how we measure uh, utility. Okay. And the idea was, well, utility is how much something increases your quality of life, uh, how much it increases your satisfaction. Okay. Um, and when something increases your satisfaction, we say, oh, it adds utility to you, adds utility to your life. Okay. The problem is how much utility it adds to your life might be different from how much utility it adds to someone else's life. So we can't stick an absolute number on it, which makes it really hard to measure. So how do we measure value? How do we measure how, when economic value is created or destroyed, or how do we measure the health of the economy? I mean, we talk about people trying to pursue their own ends, and economists for a long time have said that they're utility maximizing creatures. But the downside to that is, while I might do things based on incentives, you can't always know what my incentives are. And my incentives might change over time, right? And these are all things that hopefully you kind of sound familiar that we've talked about before, okay? So there's different theories in economics that are going to try to explain where value comes from, okay? So for example, I'm going to go back to my trusty Polar Pop example, and I'm going to write some stuff out for you, and we're going to try and do some math here and calculate if this is a good buy or not. And maybe I'm getting ripped off, okay? So let me type some things out here. I'm actually going to shift my camera a little bit closer this way so that I can use my whiteboard to draw on over here. So here's what I'm going to do. How much do you think that styrofoam cup is really cost? I mean, what are the different elements to this thirst buster? Okay, I'm going to type some of them out, and hopefully you can see them. And so let's see, I've got the cup, right? So I'm going to add the cup up there, and I've got the lid, so I'm going to put the lid up there as well. What else have I got? I've got the straw. Oops, straw spelled with an A. I've got a straw. And what else do I have in there? Well, I've got ice. Okay, so I've got ice in there. And then I've also got the actual soda itself. Now, I'm a business person, right? I own my own small shaved ice business. So I do these kind of calculations on my own. And I look and I see, okay, how much does the cup cost me? Well, I happen to know that large styrofoam cups are actually really inexpensive. Okay, And when you buy them in bulk, like this company does, um, what do you think one of these large styrofoam cups really costs? Well, I'm just gonna go off on a guess and say that they are paying about 20 cents for the styrofoam cup per cup, about 20 cents. Okay, and the lid, what they're paying is probably about 1 cent, and then the straw is probably pretty close to the same. No, the straws are a little bit more expensive. Say the straw is about 4 cents, right? And then the ice is actually one of the most expensive things in here. Why? Because ice requires so much energy to produce, at least in Arizona. Okay, so the ice is gonna, let's say the ice costs about 15 cents. Okay, and then the actual amount of soda that's in here, yeah, okay, so it's 44 ounces of soda. Subtract the volume of the ice, we're looking at maybe 24 ounces of soda here. So 24 ounces of soda, let's say that's going to cost us about, oops, that's going to cost us about 15 cents. All right. Oops. All right. And so I'm going to do some math here. And when I add all this up, oops. Okay. Whoa, 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 don't drop. When I add all this up here, I'm looking at something that has a combined value. So 20 plus 1 plus 4, that's 25, plus 15, and another 15. What, we're looking at 55 cents. Okay. So the total value of this is 55 cents. Or is it? Is the total value 55 cents? And that's the question. Is, people say, well, the value of that, oops, the value of that is 55 cents. And since you paid, well, what did I pay? I paid 79 cents plus tax. So let's look at this. What I actually paid for this item was 85 cents. So if I paid 85, but it's only valued at 55 cents, well, then I must have got ripped off, right? And because it was valued, or because I got ripped off to the tune of 30 cents to buy this soda, and so soda obviously is a big ripoff, right? So the question is, why did I why did I choose to get ripped off? I mean, do you guys want to get ripped off? I don't want to get ripped off. So did I just go in and say, hey, I don't really want this 35 cents. I want to see what I can do to waste 30 cents today. So I'm going to see if I can get ripped off by 30 cents as quickly as possible. I mean, is that what happened? Because that's what a lot of people think. Okay. And this is an economic fallacy when you say that the value of something is determined by the inputs. Okay. In fact, this is let me erase all this here. This is something that Karl Marx used as the foundation for his theory of economics, which leads us to today what we call communism and Marxism, right? And his idea was that the value of something is determined by the value of the inputs. Specifically, it's determined by the amount of labor that was required to make it. And we call that the labor theory of value. Okay. So I'm going to just stick that right there, and I want to talk to you guys about the labor theory of value for just a minute. Okay. Because imagine this. If I work really, really hard and I make something, let's say I make a delicious cherry pie. Okay. So I'm working really, really hard and make a delicious cherry pie, and it tastes fantastic. And so because I worked really hard to make that cherry pie, then it should cost more, right? And if you say, well, it shouldn't matter how hard you worked. Now think about this. You mowed the lawn for your dad, right? We talked about that last week, about whether or not you would choose to mow the lawn for your dad based on the preferences that you had, or the alternative uses that you had for your time on a Saturday afternoon. And your dad says, all right, so I'm going to pay you, this is the job. The value of the job is $10, or even better, 20 bucks. Okay? The value of the job is 20 bucks. And so your dad describes the job to you, and you do the job, and you sit down and you go, oh, Dad, that was so hard. I worked all day on that. It's worth way more than $20. Why do you think you're justified in saying that it's worth more than $20? And you might say, well, because I worked really hard, because I worked a long time, because my time is pretty valuable. Well, I'm going to tell you, you're wrong, okay? Because your time is not worth whatever you place on it, at least not in terms of getting a paycheck. It's worth what other people are willing to pay you for that time. Okay? So think about this. You're that master pie maker, and you made that master cherry pie, and you say, oh, it was so good. And someone challenged you, and you said, I want you to take as much energy and as much effort and as much time and as much knowledge, everything that you put into making that cherry pie, and I want you to make a mud pie. And I know you guys go, mud pie, that's ridiculous. No one even makes mud pies anymore. But they challenged you to do it, okay? So you started making a mud pie. And you, the master pie maker, you said, I can do this. I can do this. And you made a mud pie, and it was gorgeous, and it was fantastic, and it took so much of your time and so much effort. And you go, this mud pie took just as much time, just as much knowledge, just as much energy as making that delicious cherry pie. But is it really worth as much as the cherry pie is? I mean, would the person at the pie counter, would they say, hey, yeah, give me a slice of that mud pie right there. It looks delicious. It looks like someone spent an awful long time making that. Well, no, because who wants to eat a mud pie? Okay, so the value of the pie doesn't come from how much time you put into it. It doesn't come from how much energy you put into it. It doesn't come from the inputs themselves. Rather, the inputs gain value because you can use them to make something that other people value. Okay, so here's the question. This straw, it's a little plastic tube, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys can see me through it. Okay. But what is this good for? What value is a small plastic tube? So, well, we put it together and it contains so much plastic, and so this is what we're going to charge for it. And the question is, why does it have any value whatsoever? Well, it has value because I'm willing to buy it from you. Okay? Because I say I'm going to take it from the manufacturer, I'll give you something in exchange for it because I can use it to drink my delicious and mildly diabetes-inducing soda. So it's not that the value comes from the resource itself, or that the value comes from the things that are put together to make the resource. But the value of the resource comes from how you, an individual, are going to use that resource. How much you prefer that resource over other available resources. Do I have to use this straw? Could I bring my own straw? Okay. Have you guys ever been to Johnny Rockets? I went to Johnny Rockets once, and the straw was this big around. Okay, no joke. The straw was this big around. And could I bring my own straw to keep in my soda and just keep reusing the same straw? Sure, I could. And if I really valued them that much, I would probably go buy my own straws. In fact, I happen to buy my own straws for my shave ice business that I operate. Okay. My straws, okay, see this one? It's nothing more than a little tube. Okay. My straws have a little spoon on the end. I pay extra for that. Why? Because my customers value that. It's something that they appreciate. If they didn't appreciate it, would I add it on there? No. Would I pay extra for the spoon straws? No, probably not. Okay. So there's this idea that the labor theory of value, that there's a fixed price, and the price is correct. And if you paid more than a certain price, oh man, you got ripped off. You could have got a better price. And I just want to remind you guys that that's just wrong. Okay, there's nothing like real about that. There's no such thing as a good price or a bad price. There's just prices. Okay, and you can choose to pay the price. And what does that mean? If I choose to pay the 85 cents for this, what does it mean? It means that my preference is that I prefer one of these over having 85 cents in my pocket. What if I were to calculate the total cost, how much money I spend on soda every year? First of all, you guys would lose a ton of respect for me because I drink way more soda than I should. But I would probably be upset and say, there's no way I spend that much money, right? Because every time I go buy a soda, am I thinking, well, this is how much I'm going to spend on soda for the entire year? No, okay? Because I don't make decisions based on the total amount of something that I'm going to consume. I make decisions based on a marginal analysis, meaning adding one additional unit. I don't say, I'm going to give up soda, and by giving up soda, I'm going to save this much money a year. Because in reality, I don't know that I'm going to actually save that money. But what I do know is that I'm not going to have this. Well, if this gives me some satisfaction, some utility, then I'm gonna buy it. As long as I value it more than the cost of what I have to give up. Okay. So guys, I'm going to do something a little bit different, and I'm going to add some stuff to our Canvas class for week 3, but I'm not going to add a lot because this is one of those concepts that you just kind of have to get. I might throw a reading assignment in there, maybe a couple questions, something pretty simple. But I want to jump ahead and start moving on to some of the other things because I want you to see, okay, we're talking about utility and things that are going on inside my head, and none of this is really making any sense to me. Okay, so let's apply some of this information, and we'll do that when we start looking at, or we'll do that next week when we start looking at trading with other people, or what resources are, and how we use these resources, and how we apply this economic reasoning, or what we call the economic way of thinking, into the real world. All right. But I want to take just a minute and talk to you guys about the conference that we have coming up in October. Excuse me. And I don't mean our church conference for all those of you who are LDS. Uh, I mean our uh, economic, or I'm sorry, our EPIC conference. Entrepreneurs promoting innovation and creativity. Because I'm working really hard on this with others from the school, and specifically with my sister, who you guys might know as Elise Hurd, or Kaz's mom. So we're working really hard to put this conference together for you guys, and I'd really like all of you to be there as part of this class. Um, I understand some of you are doing other things. Some of you are going to be going to the Shakespeare Festival instead, and that's okay. Um, I know you guys have had that planned for a long time. But I want to talk to you a little bit about what this conference is. So in addition to myself and I guess you guys call him Mr. C, Chris Jones, will be speaking. And you guys might know both of us and be familiar with us. And one of the other people who will be there talking at the conference is Connor Boyack, who you guys might know him as well, because I know that his wife works with the school, but mostly with the younger kids, because their kids are really young. And one of the things that he does is he is the president of the Libertas Institute up in Utah. And they look a lot at how the role that the government plays, particularly in the way that the government influences the economy. So he's going to be talking to you guys a little bit about that, mostly in terms of entrepreneurship and how government intervention in economic matters can distort and twist and manipulate economic signals. Okay. I also have a couple other people who I'm super excited to be bringing into town. One is TK Coleman, who is the education director for a company called Praxis. And what Praxis does is it's designed for post-secondary education. What do you do when you finish high school? Well, some of you plan on going to college. Some of you are already getting college classes out of the way. Some of you know that um, as homeschool students, getting into college can be a little bit tricky sometimes. Fortunately, a lot of universities are working with homeschool families, and that's fantastic. That's great. But you got to also kind of ask yourself, why? Why go to college? What's it for? Um, and the reality is that the value of a college degree isn't the same as what it once was. Um, so Isaac, who worked with, is a friend of mine, Isaac Morehouse, who's the founder of the company Praxis. He was looking at what value does a college education actually bring, and are there other ways to get people to have this kind of value? Because a lot of people, they go to college, they're borrowing money to go to college, they're getting student loans, and by the time they graduate college, great, they might be able to find a better job than they would have if they didn't go to college. And that's fantastic. That's great. But they're also carrying around 40, 60, $80,000 in debt. Okay. And that debt has to be paid off. Okay. That spending is not free. Everything has a cost, right? So he said, can I get them through to get the information, the knowledge, the skills that they need, while also getting them workplace experience? Because that's what employers are really looking for. Can we do all these things and get them out of there without any debt? Fantastic. So we put together a program called Praxis. And Praxis is a 10-month program where you're going to do your courses online. Pretty similar to what we're doing right now, but probably much better organized, because I'm not the best organized person in the world. Most organized person. I'm even having trouble giving preference rankings right now. So probably better organized than mine. But you're going to be doing classes online, 10-month program, and during that time period, you'll be working with a business. And I don't mean like you're going to have an internship where you make copies or you make everyone's coffee in the morning because that's what people do at workplaces where they're not mostly LDS. They go and they make coffee every morning. I don't know. And that's how most internships are set up. And it's bogus because it doesn't actually teach you anything in terms of running the business and making the day-to-day business decisions. All right. So what Isaac did and uh, what what he does mostly within praxis is he works with their business partners. He says, we're going to work with these people, work with this business, and within this business, I want this praxis participant working with executives, with CEOs, with presidents and vice presidents of organizations, so that they can see how the decision process happens, so that they can really get the experience of what it means to run your own business. And you see entrepreneurship from the inside. So that way, when you finish the program, uh, after you've been working for this company this whole time, you've actually earned back whatever amount of money you spent in order to get enrolled in this program to begin with. So it's a really cool alternative to college. And TK is a fantastic guy that works with Isaac. And if you check out our Facebook event, there's a link to his blog. Seriously, one of the most inspirational guys that I know, and you guys have the opportunity to meet with him and to hear some of the things that he has to say. Another thing that you guys, or another speaker that we actually just put together yesterday, 2 days ago maybe, is Austin Craig, who uh, has, I guess he's kind of a local celebrity in that part of Utah for some of the other things that he's done, some of the acting gigs that he's had, um, especially when it comes to advertising and things like that. What I know him mostly from is a documentary that he filmed shortly after getting married called Life on Bitcoin. And he and his wife decided to live on nothing but Bitcoin for the first 90 days of their marriage. And we'll talk a little bit more about what Bitcoin is when we get into our unit about money. But really, it's innovative technology that takes everything that we thought we know about money and kind of flips it on its head. Um, and so it's a really cool opportunity to talk to these people and to see how these innovations are taking place and shaping the world around us and how entrepreneurs are doing some of these things. And what you'll see is in all the people who are talking, you'll see that they're all going to talk a little bit about how what you want and what other people want don't always line up. But when you do what you can with your resources to align with the values and the desires and the wants of other people in an economic system, you'll be rewarded for that. And we'll talk about that next week when we're looking at factors of production. I think I've got maybe one person on here right now and about 20 or about 10 minutes left in our allocated time period. But does anyone have any questions? If no one has any questions, then I'm going to go ahead and jump off. I'll wait just a minute or two while you guys, if you need time to type a question, go ahead and throw a question in there. Make sure if you haven't jumped on the Canvas or looked at the assignments, look at those assignments. Uh, also with the discussion questions that I post, uh, keep that conversation going. You guys got answers in, I'll respond to them. Keep that conversation going because that's where you're really going to learn. Not from listening to me be the talking head on the computer, uh, but where you're going to learn is in the discussion and the interaction. Okay. So I'm not seeing any questions pop up, so I don't think anyone has any questions. So if there's no questions, then I guess I'll go ahead and I will see you guys next week. And we'll try to work with the technology and see if we can't make it function a little bit better. And then I'll see you guys next week. Take care.